Okay, well, this video we're going to be talking about commercial fisheries. This is the first in the commercial fisheries videos. And so if we want to start talking about commercial fishing, well, we need to know what commercial fishing is. Okay, so what is commercial fishing? Let's explore a couple of scenarios. First one, selling your recreational catch to the local fish and chip shop. Would that be commercial fishing? And obviously, if you're selling for the fish for money, then yeah, everybody would agree that is commercial fishing. Okay. What about this one? Raffling your catch in a pub. All right. Again, you're going to be making a bit of a financial gain, so yeah, that would be commercial fishing. Okay. Even if you give the receipts to a charity or a church or something like that, then you're still catching fish and trading it for money. Okay. How about this one? Your neighbor the farmer gives you some home-killed lamb and you give him a couple of crayfish. Well, it's just a trade. It happens all the time. You think that's commercial fishing? Okay. Wait, and we'll have a look at the definition and you'll think and see what you think. How about this one? Your dear Nana gives you a Fijo a crumble and you give her some snapper fillets. What about that? Commercial fishing? I mean, most people would have no qualms with doing that, and thinking that that was completely within the bounds of their legal rights. And what about this one? You have a meal with your dear Nana of snapper that you caught, and she cooks a Fijo a crumble. Commercial fishing? Let's see. Well, let's have a look at the definition. Commercial fishing definition, OEC definition. Commercial fishing refers to the harvesting of fish either in whole or in part for sale, barter, or trade. So, if you look at all of these scenarios, scenario 1 and 2, obviously, that's for sale, and so, or that's for sale, and so obviously that's commercial fishing. And then you look at 3 and 4. Now you're never going to get convicted for trading Fijo a crumble for some snapper fillets, but technically that would be commercial fishing. You have benefited by trade. And scenario 5, if you have a meal with your grandmother, that could be considered a gift, and so you wouldn't call that commercial fishing. Okay. So commercial fishers, we hear a lot about, we're all concerned with environmental causes. We're all concerned with having a clean ocean. Some of us may have been commercial fishers. So what do we think? Are they ocean raping bastards, or are they good guys trying to get us a feed? Okay, what do you think? Well, if you put your hand up and you say in the former, and you ever eat fish and chips, then you might need to think about your hypocrisy, because worldwide 29 million people are commercial fishers, and so if you think about that, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times the population of New Zealand. All go out on a day-to-day basis, or for longer periods of time if they're on the bigger boats, and they go and they catch fish for sale. Okay, so this is a massive industry worldwide, and these are people just trying to make a living. And then 5.8 million of those people only commercial fish for subsistence. They might catch a few kilos a day, maybe 15, 20, 30 kilos a day, enough to feed their families, and then trade for food, trade for the basic necessities of life, but they're not making huge amounts of money out of their commercial fishing. And if you think about the industry on a larger scale, 100 million people directly employed in commercial fishing industry. So when you talk about all the engineering, the boat building, the supply of bait, the processing of the seafood, cutting it into fillets and boxing it up and shipping it out to you, so you can buy it at the fish and chip shop. There's something like 27 or 30 New Zealand populations all employed directly in commercial fishing. Okay, doesn't include any recreational components. So that's not including people who are selling you tackle down at the tackle shop or doing fishing charters. These are people only in commercial fishing industry. So let's think about how people catch enough fish to sell. Okay, we're going to go through these 12 different methods, and these different methods, if you learn these methods, that should encompass just about all the ways that people catch fish around the world on a commercial level. Okay, there may be people that are spearing one or two or a few freshwater fish, but they're probably not going to be doing it at a commercial level. They'll won't be catching enough of a quantity. Okay, so let's go through these individually. If we look at the species tuna, okay, this is a pelagic, offshore, generally deep water fish, very fast swimming, widespread, so they over huge geographical areas. They're not just like crayfish where they're limited to the rocky margins of the near shore. Tightly schooling, so you'll see balls of schools of these fish swimming together, and usually greater than 100 meters depth. Okay, so we catch them near the surface a lot, troll for tuna on the surface, but most of the time the fish actually spend their time down at 100 meters or at higher depths. And so certain things like a pot isn't going to work for these things, and even trawl nets and the like are just not going to be fast enough to be able to catch these things. So we've got to think about what sort of method might work for catching tuna. Okay, the first one, trolling. Okay, where this is where you tow an array of baited hooks or lures, and a few people might have done that, towed bungees or lures for skipjack tuna. You may have even gone out and trolled lures for marlin. Seen it on the ITM fishing show with Matt Watson, towing one behind a surfboard. You know, like so there are lots and lots of different configurations, but it just means towing a lure or a baited hook behind a boat. Okay. Another way, surface long line. Okay. Line suspended the required distance below the surface by regularly spaced buoys. So what will happen is this boat will drop off a buoy, and this thing will probably have a radio signal that it broadcasts, so the boat can always find its way back to that buoy. And then what they do is they'll just drive along, paying the line out. This doesn't get towed through the water now. This buoy will stay in one place. Okay, but they just drive along, paying out this line, just laying the line out like if you imagine a truck laying a cable as it drives along. Same sort of thing. And every once in a while, every few meters, every 20 meters, every 50 meters, depends on what configuration they're using, they'll clip on a leader with a hook on the end. And then every so often, depending on how deep they want these hooks to hang, they'll put a buoy onto the surface, and or they'll clip a buoy on, and that'll hold it up at the surface. And so they'll drive along, and maybe this thing will be a few hundred meters long, or maybe it'll be 5 kilometers long, or maybe it'll be 30 kilometers long, with just hook after hook after hook, in a long line, all with bait on them. Okay, so these would be usually deployed at where they think the fish are. So it's usually looking at satellite photos of water temperature changes and the like, or where there's a large amount of bait fish. Okay, and then we also have a purse seine. Okay, so this is another method whereby you might catch fast-swimming pelagic fish. Also used extensively for kawai, locally extensively used for kawai, skipjack tuna, jack mackerel, koharu, and a few others. Okay, so Western one boat would be a single boat or a two boat. There's a two boat method. Okay, so there's a skiff, okay, which is a smaller boat which will take the end of the net and it'll hold on to the net, and the big boat will just drive along, dropping this big curtain of a net, floats on the top, waits on the bottom, so it makes a big curtain, and they just drive around the school of fish. Okay, come back to that central point where the skiff is holding station, and they will then the skiff will transfer the lines to the main boat, and then what they do is they slowly just take in all this line and squeeze up the bottom so it becomes a bowl shaped net, open at the top, closed up at the bottom. Therefore the fish can't swim out and underneath it. They're enclosed in this. Then they just pull in the net slowly, making this enclosure smaller and smaller and smaller until the fish are in the net next to the boat, and then they scoop them up. And if you look at some of the purse seining videos on YouTube, here's a link right here. You can type that link in and look at some of the purse seining videos on YouTube, and you'll see some very very interesting footage of multiple species being caught, not at the same time. This is a very clean method. You tend to target one school of fish and one school only. And we'll stop at this point and pick up in the next video with other fishing methods. So these three are the main methods for catching pelagic fast-swimming fish like tuna, marlin, broadbill, kawai, jack mackerel, anchovies, and the like.